The 2025 MLB season is finally over, and we finally have Cardinals roster moves to discuss. It's coming up on B-Schaeff Daily. What's going on, everyone, and welcome into this edition of B-Schaeff Daily. Brenden Schaeffer with you. The baseball season is over. The Dodgers won the World Series, blah, blah, blah. I say we knew that was coming. Maybe not in the exact way that it happened. It really was a great World Series. And I'm sure many people wishing to have seen the Blue Jays find a way to get it done. But of course, it was the result that we all kind of expected all along. But it's over now. And that means we can finally start to talk about the future as it pertains to the St. Louis Cardinals and what I have continued to say will be an extremely eventful offseason. Now, I tweeted that out the night of Game 7 and got some pushback from people who said, I don't really think they're going to get better. I don't think they're going to add anybody. You're right. They're probably not. I didn't say it's going to be eventful in a positive way for the 2026 win total, but stuff is going to happen. We've gotten additional reporting from Jeff Passan that matches what we already assumed to be the case. Nolan Arenado is going to waive that no-trade clause and end up somewhere, is certainly the way things seem to be going. Where that ends up being, we don't know. When it'll happen, good question. Might be a podcast for another day. But I do want to talk about the newsworthy transactions the Cardinals made earlier this week. It's really the first time we've been able to say that in a while. Everything else has just been conjecture, speculation, whatever the case. I'm pulling up the Cardinals Twitter feed now. They wish Sonny Gray a happy birthday today. That's nice. He won't be on the team next year. Alec Burleson winning the Silver Slugger last night. That's really cool. Not really a lot to say about that as far as a full episode, but certainly Burley's place in this lineup in 2026, that'll be a topic of conversation, as it'll be for Mason Wynn, who won the Gold Glove for his defensive acumen. What will he be at the plate, I think, is going to go a long way toward determining just how competitive the Cardinals can be and how quickly. Because if he slots in as a number 8 hitter or number 9 hitter in your lineup for the foreseeable future, well, that would maybe imply that there's some players better than him batting in the top of the order. Right now on the current roster, I think you might have a couple candidates, but will that be true by the time we get to March if trades are made? Also, we're looking at Mason Wynn's numbers so far. He had a below-average season offensively in 2025. Can he improve? Can he find the next level and maybe become a guy that you're trying to find a reason to put him at leadoff or number 2 in your lineup, rather than saying, well, we just kind of have to maybe put him there because we don't have anybody that profiles any better, despite Mason Wynn not having a really high OPS. That either, but on-base percentage is really what I'd be looking at with a leadoff man, and that dropped down a little bit for him this past year. Can he be a guy that settles in to a 330, 340, maybe even better? OPS, a little bit of pop. OPS I keep saying OPS, on base in the 340 range. Can he have an OPS in the upper 700s? Well, that's a guy that should bat in the top third of an order for even a contending team. Cardinals may not be one next year, but we'll continue to talk about what they will be. What they'll be without is a couple of players that were claimed off of waivers on Thursday. Michael Ciani, goodbye. He has been claimed by the Atlanta Braves. And Roddery Munoz claimed by the Reds, so stays in the Central Division. Zach Thompson and Anthony Veneziano, we hardly knew you. Veneziano, they were outrighted to AAA Memphis, after which time they both elected to become minor league free agents. So nobody claimed them. Nobody wanted to add them to their 40-man roster. And so the Cardinals said, all right, you're off our 40, but you can stay in Memphis. And they said, thanks, but no thanks. We'll see if we can catch on somewhere else, which is common in those situations for those guys. So Veneziano, whatever. I feel nothing about that one. They added him because they had took a flyer on him during the summer. Didn't work out. Didn't really feel compelled to keep him. Nothing ventured, nothing gained on that. Zach Thompson, it ends the era, right, of the Zach Thompson era. He was a first-round pick at one point in time, and so that is a disappointing end. I can tell you it was February last year when I was like, this Zach Thompson thing is almost done. We're almost done here. And that ended up happening. So I'm not surprised by that move. I don't think many Cardinals fans are either. Ciani, I think, is a version of Victor Scott II that has less upside potential offensively. So again, we talked about it last year. I like Siani as a player. I liked him more than most Cardinals fans did, probably. But he was limited at the plate and was always going to be, is sort of the way that we viewed it. Loved his defense, but that's what you have in Victor Scott II. And in VS2, you have the potential, in theory, to get more from that profile at the plate. Will he develop into that, or will he just be fancy Michael Siani? Time will tell. I'm playing him every day in center field in 2026 to find out, though, because that's what 2026 can be about. Like, this is not a Cardinal team that we should go into the season expecting to be a contender. It's going to be lean. It might be really lean. But you also might learn some things along the way. Can you give the runway? I know you don't want to hear that phrase, but can you give the opportunity to Victor Scott, and he can, in his third year really as a big leaguer, figure it out? Can Mason Wynn make that leap? Can you find out more about Thomas Saggese? Is he somebody that's more of a utility guy off your bench, can fill in a few times a week, or is he somebody that's going to find a home in 2026 and have a position and hit enough to justify it? These are the types of things that it'll make sense for the Cardinals to explore. Jordan Walker obviously is going to be a topic if he's still here. And we'll have that if he's still here conversation about a lot of guys. Brendan Donovan, will he be traded? I don't think he'll be extended. I just don't see the Cardinals spending money before the CBA expiration on December 1st of 2026. I think they're going to kick some cans down the road, but they could also make trades. I would have thought that Lars Nootbaar would have been somebody that would be traded, but he's dealing with a recovery from a Haglund's deformity surgical repair that was necessary on both of his heels. To avoid that situation, which could turn into more of a sinister Achilles type of thing. And so that had to happen, and he may not be available for opening day, which could mean that he's not available in a trade. I mean, will teams still want to give up talent to get him, knowing that situation? I don't know. Could be a blessing in disguise if the Cardinals were going to trade him and sell him low, and now if they can't, without selling him really low, do they decide to keep him? Is another question of the offseason. Lots of questions, but I think the start of it all is going the way that it had to, with some guys getting booted off the 40-man roster. Siani, Munoz, Thompson, Veneziano, all gone. Brian Torres, a utility man from the AAA Memphis contingent, was added to the 40-man roster. I believe he was in that range of guys who has to be protected this offseason from Rule 5. And he's going to be probably on this team next year. I think you're going to see Brian Torres in St. Louis at some point. He had some good numbers in AAA, 905 OPS in AAA last year. He is not a youngster, not a prospect. He's 27 years old. But that is sort of the nature of the beast, I think, with where the Cardinals are. He's 28 years old. July 2nd, 1997. I say he's not a youngster. He's almost 3 years younger than me to the day. But in terms of prospects, yeah, he's not one. But he's a guy that might be able to show up. And look, if he had a 900 OPS in AAA, who's to say he can't show up next year, have a 700 OPS in the big leagues, and play multiple positions? He's listed as an infielder, outfielder. He's played some second base. He's played some center field, I believe, some left field, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Played right field predominantly last year. He's listed on Baseball Reference center field, and they need to probably change that. Predominantly played second and in the corners in the outfield last year. But, this is the kind of guy that when you trade away some of the guys they may trade away, Brian Torres, come on down. Whether he's on the bench, whether he's playing some, this is the new look Cardinals. Be surprised if Torres is not given a look in spring and then potentially on the opening day roster, depending on how many trades are made. The 40-man roster still is going to need some adjusting with where the Cardinals are now, even after the 4 moves yesterday. They lose 4, they add 1, and so I guess I could count. Here's like a savvy podcaster thing. Pause, and then I resume as if no time has passed. 37 is where the Cardinals 40-man roster stands as of this moment, according to the team website. I'm scanning the list and seeing more names that could and will probably fall off, and then you got to add some additional names from that group of AA, AAA players that need to be protected from the Rule 5 draft. But, as an example, not going to say that this is happening for sure, but Matt Koperniak, outfielder who did not really produce this season, is another left-handed bat, and I don't know his age, but I think he's not, kind of like we talk about with Brian Torres, not super young anymore. And so if he's a guy that the Cardinals try to pass through waivers, I would not necessarily be shocked by that. And I think there's a number of guys to which that applies in the Cardinals system and in their in their 40-man roster. He was born in 1998, Koperniak, so he's 27. He'll be 28 by the time we get to spring training. That feels like another name that you go, okay, let's be aware at least of that situation. Prieto could easily be a guy that they want to give some run to next year. Like, how do they decide between a Prieto and a Fermin and some of these guys that we've seen a little bit of, and maybe some of them are cast aside, but some of them are end up in prominent roles, and there might not be a big difference between the ones that you don't think are worthy of a 40-man spot and the ones that are starting at third base for you. That could be the way that this Cardinals season goes. Joel Pozo is right now your fourth catcher on your 40-man roster if Ivan Herrera is going to be installed back into a role like that. So you keep an eye on that. Guys like Tekoa Roby and Sem Robertson recovering from Tommy John. I think Roby is certainly a guy that's going to stick around. What about Robertson? What's his recovery like, and is it going to be worthwhile to spend that spot if you don't believe that, okay, he can be healthy and contribute at the big league level? Because we harped on it last year. One of the problems with the John Mozeliak era as it came to a close was too many guys on the 40-man that really you weren't confident that could help you, and they also aren't prospects that you're saying they're going to be great, they're just not ready. So are some of these other guys, Nick Raquet, can't remember if it was Raquet or Racket, but they added him late. Is he somebody that they want to see a future for, or is he somebody they tried to pass through? Alcala, I think, is somebody you definitely hang on to. Was throwing triple digits late last season, but there's still a handful of names that I think you could look at, and that's before we even talk about trading a guy like Nolan Arenado, who when they trade him, they may not get a big league player back for him or a 40-man roster player back for him. So these are the types of moves that we could certainly see, and it's the type of stuff we'll be talking about all offseason long on B-Schaeff Daily. I know it's been a minute since I've caught up with you guys, but I'm looking to at least do it like this, 12 to 15 minutes a day, keeping you posted on the weekdays at least with what's going on with Cardinals baseball, and certainly when any real news drops, you can count on me to be on top of it this winter. That is my pledge to you. Got a lot going on, but I want to make this something I've got going on too, and now it's just time for me to show you that and do it regularly. So appreciate you guys for jumping in. We will talk to you next time on B-Schaeff Daily. Peace.